Welcome back to Bible Quizzes. We've got another quiz today, and it's on the book of Genesis. Let's get started. 1. In which chapter of Genesis is the first covenant between God and Noah mentioned? Genesis 5, Genesis 9, Genesis 8, or Genesis 10? Genesis 9, Genesis 9:9, and behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you. 2. Who was the father of Methuselah, the oldest man recorded in the Bible? Lamech, Enos, Enoch, or Mahalalel? Enoch, Genesis 5:21, and Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. 3. How many animals of each clean kind was Noah commanded to bring into the ark? 2, 4, 7, or 10? Genesis 7:2, of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by two, the male and his female. 4. What was the name of the place where Jacob dreamed of a ladder reaching to heaven? Hebron, Luz, Haran, or Bethel? 'Bethel, Genesis 28:19, and he called the name of that place Bethel, but the name of that city was called Luz at the first. 5. How many years did Jacob serve Laban in total to marry Rachel? 7, 14, 20, or 30? 14. Genesis 29:27, fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service, which thou shalt serve with me yet 7 other years. 6. What was the name of Abraham's father? Terah, Haran, Nahor, or Peleg? Terah, Genesis 11:27. Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran begot Lot. 7. Who was a king of Salem who blessed Abram and to whom Abram gave 1/10 of everything? Abimelech, Nimrod, Melchizedek, or Lot? Melchizedek, Genesis 14:18-20, and Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was a priest of the Most High God, and he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. 8. How old was Isaac when he married Rebekah? 20, 40, 30, or 50? 40. Genesis 25:20, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padanaram, the sister to Laban the Syrian. 9. Who was the mother of Ishmael? Rebekah, Hagar, Sarah, or Keturah? 10. Hagar. Genesis 16:15, and Hagar bare Abram a son, and Abram called his son's name, which Hagar bare Ishmael. 10. How many men did Abraham have with him when he went to rescue Lot? 300, 318, 350, or 400? 318. Genesis 14:14, and when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armied his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. 11. Who was the first recorded builder of a city in Genesis? Nimrod, Seth, Enoch, or Abel? Enoch, Genesis 4:17, and Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch, and he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. 12. Who was a king who tried to take Sarah as his wife thinking she was Abraham's sister? Pharaoh, Melchizedek, Abimelech, or Laban? Abimelech. Genesis 22. And Abraham said of Sarah his wife, She is my sister, and Abimelech king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. 13. What did Abraham's servant give to Rebekah as a sign she was chosen to be Isaac's wife? Necklace, silver coins, earring and bracelet, or silver cup? Earring and bracelet. Genesis 24:22. And it came to pass as the camels had done drinking that the man took a golden earring of half a shekel weight and 2 bracelets for her hands of 10 shekels weight of gold. 14. What did God use to create Eve? Dust, water, Adam's rib, or clay? Adam's rib. Genesis 2:21-22. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh instead thereof, and the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. 15. Who was the first person in Genesis recorded as mighty hunter before the Lord? Cain, Abel, Esau, or Nimrod? Nimrod. Genesis 10:9. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod the mighty hunter before the Lord. 16. What was the name of Abraham's nephew who traveled with him? Nahor, Terah, Haran, or Lot? Lot. Genesis 12:5. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered. 17. Where did God ask Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac? Mount Sinai, Bethel, Mount Moriah, or Haran? Mount Moriah. Genesis 22:2. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son, Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. 18. What was the punishment God gave to Eve for eating the forbidden fruit? Pain in childbirth. Genesis 3:16. Unto the woman he said, I'll greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. 19. What were the names of Isaac's twin sons? Jacob and Esau, Jacob and Abel, Cain and Abel, or Judah and Levi? Jacob and Esau. Genesis 25:24-25. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, and the first came out red, all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. 20. Who was the first woman mentioned by name in the book of Genesis? Eve, Rebekah, Sarah, or Hagar? Eve. Genesis 3:20. And Adam called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. 21. What was the name of Abraham's wife? Hagar, Sarah, Keturah, or Rachel? Sarah. Genesis 17:15. And God said unto Abraham, As for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. 22. Who deceived Isaac into giving the blessing meant for Esau to Jacob? Laban, Rebekah, Abraham, or Rachel? Rebekah. Genesis 27:6-7. And Rebekah spake unto Jacob her son, saying, Behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, Bring me venison and make me savory meat. 23. Who was the mother of Joseph and Benjamin? Leah, Bilhah, Zilpah, or Rachel? Rachel. And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her, and opened her womb, and she conceived and bare a son, and said, God hath taken away my reproach, and she called his name Joseph. 24. How old was Sarah when she gave birth to Isaac? 90, 100, 80, or 75? Genesis 17:17. Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old, and shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear? 25. What was the sign of the covenant God made with Noah? Rainbow, fire, altar, or cloud? Rainbow. Genesis 9:13. I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth. 26. What was the land that Lot chose to settle in, which eventually was destroyed? Egypt, Canaan, Sodom, or Edom? Sodom. Genesis 13:12-13. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent toward Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. 27. Who was Jacob's first wife? Leah, Zilpah, Rachel, or Bilhah? Leah. Genesis 29:25. And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah, and he said to Laban, What is this thou hast done unto me? 28. What was the occupation of Abel, Adam and Eve's second son? Farmer, fisherman, shepherd, or hunter? Shepherd. Genesis 4:2. And she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. 29. What was the first thing Noah did after leaving the ark? Built an altar and made a sacrifice. Genesis 8:20. And Noah builded an altar unto the Lord, and took of every clean beast and of every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. 30. How many days and nights did it rain during the flood? 30, 50, 40, or 60? Genesis 7:12. And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. 31. How old was Abraham when God called him to leave Haran? 50, 75, 60, or 100? Genesis 12:4. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. 32. Who was the father of Esau's wife Judith? Elon, Heth, Beeri, or Epher? Beeri. Genesis 26:34. And Esau was 40 years old when he took to wife Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite. 33. Who was the Canaanite that Jacob's son Judah married? Shua, Keturah, Tamar, or Rumah? Shua. Genesis 38:2. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua, and he took her and went in unto her. 34. What did Jacob name the place where he wrestled with God? Bethel, Peniel, Hebron, or unnamed? Peniel, Genesis 32:30, and Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. 35. What was the meaning of the name given to Jacob's son Naphtali? Wrestlings of God. He has added, son of the right hand, or son of sorrow. Wrestlings of God, Genesis 38, and Rachel said, with great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed, and she called his name Naphtali. 36. What gift did Jacob give to Joseph that caused jealousy among his brothers? Silver cup, bracelet, coat, or silver ring? Coat, Genesis 37:3. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. 37. How old was Abraham when Isaac was born? 90, 120, 100, or 110? Genesis 21:5. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. 38. What was the name of Joseph's Egyptian wife? Asenath, Zilpah, Keturah, or Dinah? Asenath, Genesis 41:45. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath-Paneah, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. 39. Who found water in the wilderness after being sent away by Abraham? Lot, Esau, Hagar, or Ishmael? Hagar, Genesis 21:19. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle with water and gave the lad drink. 40. Who prevented the brothers from killing Joseph and suggested they throw him into a pit instead? Judah, Simeon, Levi, or Reuben? Reuben, Genesis 37:21-22. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, let us not kill him. 41. How old was Jacob when he met Pharaoh in Egypt? 120, 140, 130, or 150? Genesis 47:9. And Jacob said unto Pharaoh, the days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years, few and evil have the days of the years of my life been. 42. Who sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites? Judah, his brothers, merchants, or Habakkuk? His brothers, Genesis 37:28. Then there passed by Midianites merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. 43. What was the name of the city that Lot fled to from Sodom? Gomorrah, Hebron, Zoar, or Salem? Zoar, Genesis 19:22. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. 44. Who was Joseph's younger brother? Levi, Simeon, Asher, or Benjamin? Benjamin, Genesis 35:18. And it came to pass, as her soul was in departing, for she died, that she called his name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. 45. What did Jacob do with his hands to bless his grandsons Ephraim and Manasseh? Crossed his hands. Genesis 48:14, and Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wittingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. 46, who pleaded with God to spare Sodom if righteous people could be found there? Lot, Isaac, Abraham, or Jacob? Abraham, Genesis 18:23-24. And Abraham drew near and said, Wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are therein? 47. What was the name of Abraham's second wife, whom he married after Sarah's death? Hagar, Keturah, Milcah, or Rebekah? Keturah, Genesis 25:1. Then again, Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah. 48. What did Esau sell to Jacob in exchange for a meal? His livestock, his blessing, his birthright, or his inheritance? His birthright, Genesis 25:33-34. And Jacob said, Swear to me this day, and he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils. 49. What did Rachel steal from her father Laban when leaving with Jacob? His idols, his wealth, his camels, or his cloak? His idols, Genesis 31:19. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were his father's. 50. What name did God give Jacob after he wrestled with an angel? Israel, Jabez, Isaac, or Judah? Israel, Genesis 32:28. And he said, Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel, for as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. 51. How many years did Jacob work in total to marry Rachel? 7, 14, 10, or 20? Genesis 29:20-30. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days, for the love he had to her. And he served with him yet 7 other years. 52. Who suggested to throw Joseph into a pit instead of killing him? Simeon, Judah, Reuben, or Levi? Reuben, Genesis 37:21-22. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, Let us not kill him. 53. Who was the father of Noah? Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, or Jared? Lamech, Genesis 5:28-29. And Lamech lived 182 years and begat a son, and he called his name Noah. 54. How did God stop people from building the Tower of Babel? He confused their language. Genesis 11:7. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. 55. How many total people were on the ark with Noah? 8, 12, 10, or 0? 8. Genesis 7:13. In the self-same day entered Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them into the ark. 56. Which of Abraham's sons became the father of the 12 princes? Isaac, Esau, Ishmael, or Jacob? Ishmael, Genesis 17:20, and as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget. 57. Who was a king who took Sarah into his house, thinking she was Abraham's sister? Pharaoh, Nimrod, Abimelech, or Laban? Abimelech. Genesis 22, and Abraham said of Sarah his wife, She is my sister, and Abimelech king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. 58. What was the final count of righteous people Abraham asked God to spare Sodom for? 100, 10, 50, or 5? 10. Genesis 18:32, and he said, O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure 10 shall be found there, and he said, I'll not destroy it for 10's sake. 59. Who offered his daughters to the men of Sodom in an attempt to protect his guests? Abraham, Lot, Isaac, or Jacob? Lot. Genesis 19:8, Behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you. 60. Who was buried in the cave of Machpelah? Sarah, Leah, Hagar, or Rebekah? Sarah. Genesis 23:19. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre. 61. Who tricked Jacob into marrying Leah instead of Rachel? Reuben, Esau, Laban, or Lot? Laban. Genesis 29:25, and it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, What is this thou hast done unto me? 62. Who is the mother of Dan and Naphtali? Rachel, Bilhah, Leah, or Zilpah? Bilhah. Genesis 30:3-6, and she said, Behold my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. 63. What was the name of the land where Jacob settled after returning from Padan Aram? Canaan, Shechem, Hebron, or Bethel? Hebron. Genesis 35:27, and Jacob came unto Isaac his father unto Mamre, unto the city of Arba, which is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac sojourned. 64. Which brother suggested that Joseph be sold to the Ishmaelites instead of killing him? Judah, Simeon, Reuben, or Levi? Judah. Genesis 37:26-27, and Judah said unto his brethren, What profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? 65. How many dreams did Joseph interpret for Pharaoh? 1, 3, 2, or 4? Genesis 41:25, and Joseph said unto Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. God hath shewed Pharaoh what he is about to do. 66. What was the occupation of Joseph's family, according to his instructions to them when they met Pharaoh? Farmers, shepherds, carpenters, or merchants? Shepherds. Genesis 46:34, that ye shall say, Thy servant's trade hath been about cattle from our youth even until now, both we and also our fathers. 67. How long was the famine that Joseph predicted would follow the 7 years of plenty? 3 years, 7 years, 5 years, or 10 years? 7 years, Genesis 41:30, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt. 68, which son of Jacob received a blessing from Jacob in the farm of a fruitful bow by a well? Judah, Levi, Joseph, or Benjamin? Joseph, Genesis 49:22, Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well, whose branches run over the wall. 69, what was the length of time that Jacob spent in Egypt before his death? 10 years, 17 years, 15 years, or 20 years? "17 years, Genesis 47:28, and Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years, so the whole age of Jacob was 147 years. 70, to whom did Jacob give the blessing of the firstborn? Reuben, Judah, Levi, or Ephraim? Ephraim, Genesis 48:19-20, and his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it, he also shall become a people, and he also shall be great, but truly his younger brother shall be greater than he. 71, where was Rachel buried? Hebron, Egypt, Bethlehem, or Ai? Bethlehem, Genesis 35:19, and Rachel died and was buried in the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. 72, which son did Jacob compare to a lion's whelp? Benjamin, Dan, Joseph, or Judah? Judah, Genesis 49:9, Judah is a lion's whelp from the prey, my son, thou art gone up. 73, what was the sign of the covenant between God and Abraham? Rainbow, burnt offering, circumcision, or an altar? Circumcision, Genesis 17:10-11, this is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee, every man child among you shall be circumcised. 74, who was the first recorded man in the Bible to be a farmer? Adam, Noah, Abel, or Cain? Cain, Genesis 4:2, and she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. 75, how many sons did Abraham have in total? 1, 3, 2, or 8? Genesis 25:1-2, then again Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah, and she bare him Zimran, and Jokshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shua. 76, how long did God give mankind to repent before sending the flood? 100 years, 150 years, 120 years, or 200 years? "120 years, Genesis 6:3, and the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. 77, how old was Noah when the flood waters came upon the earth? 500, 700, 600, or 800? "600, Genesis 7:6, and Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. 78, what land did Abraham journey to after leaving Ur of the Chaldees? Egypt, Mesopotamia, Canaan, or Aram? Canaan, Genesis 12:5, and Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan. 79. What was the name of the angel who stopped Abraham from sacrificing Isaac? Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, or unnamed?